Well, would you look at that? This is the Nightcap with yours truly, and most importantly, your buddy, Jared Yamamoto. This is my new talk show, and you can typically catch me Saturday nights on WSB Radio, but today's a little bit different, friends. Yes, I am coming to you on all of my different live stream feeds. Yes, it's a little bit different because my home station, WSB, is the home of the Georgia Bulldogs. And being the home of the Georgia Bulldogs, anytime we have a 7:30 kick or later, that means that unfortunately my Saturday show, the Nightcap, they can hear again from 11 to midnight, gets bumped. And it makes me bummed, but I will happily move aside for Kirby Smart and the boys to take care of business. I mean, I think we can all agree, horns down tomorrow night in Athens. Hopefully the Dogs take care of business. But regardless, I have a full show prepared for you, and I wanted to go through some of the news of the day. Normally I call it the news of the night, as you know on the show.
It's the news of the night.
But we're going to call it the news of the day because there's a lot of stuff that happened. And I'll be honest with you, it's kind of nice because I got a chance to go play golf earlier and really process the weekend news and just everything that went down this week. And I think where I want to start is something that frustrates everybody really more than anything. And I'll get into these $2,000 stimulus checks. I'll get into the tariffs and stuff. And this all kind of ties in here because we're starting to see the Trump administration push back on tariffs. So we're starting to see, like, now today it was announced that they're going to reduce tariffs on coffee, bananas, and imported goods from countries that we quote like, countries that we again quote like. We're in a pissing contest with both with Colombia and with Venezuela. So those countries are excluded from that. But we're starting to see some chinks in the armor here. And it came out earlier this week that there was going to be this potential stimulus check that comes out before the end of the year. And I keep seeing all these articles. In fact, I had one pulled up right in front of me that said that the Trump administration is committed on these $2,000 stimulus checks. And I have to ask, I mean, in theory, I understand the idea behind it because the idea is, well, all the money that's come in via tariff, I mean, that does belong to the American people, and therefore we should be able to utilize it. But wouldn't you just rather have the lower prices across the board? I mean, that's what I would rather have. I would rather be able to go to the grocery store or pay for goods and services at a lower cost instead of waiting for the government to hand me a $2,000 check. Now, we've been in this scenario since Trump took office back in January. So almost a year now. And at this point, the tariffs have been in place. There's nothing you can do to undo it. So am I too good to not take a $2,000 stimulus check? Of course not. No, I've been paying into it. The extra fees that I paid at Kroger and Publix to get the goods and to get the groceries that I need and the goods and services outside of that, I have been paying into that for at least this year. But we have to ask ourselves, though, in the long run, what is it that we really want as Americans? Would you rather have overall lower prices at the grocery store or just for goods and services altogether? Or do you want to rely on a check that comes out at the end of the year? Now, again, a $2,000 check will certainly help some people out there. I'm not here to say that a $2,000 check wouldn't help yours truly at all, but I would much rather just spend less during the year. And this kind of gets me into my my old man moments that I've had this week. I've had a couple of old man moments. I am the youngest talk show host on WSB Radio in Atlanta at 36 years old. But this week I've had a couple of moments where I've just realized that I guess I'm getting older. And, you know, when you see the news cycle and you see some of the stories that have come out, that kind of turns you at least one way. You're like, oh, okay, this is annoying. This is annoying. And I mentioned this yesterday briefly on the Von Hessler Doctrine, but as a 36-year-old guy, I am finding so much relief when I don't have to sign up for things online or I don't have to download an app for things. And I realize that's a very stupid thing to be happy about, but I'm just being honest with you. I mean, I am being dead honest when I say I get excited knowing that if I go to, again, we'll go back to the goods, services, groceries. I mean, hell, when I go to Kroger, for example, I don't even like to use a Kroger card because, yes, it saves me money, but then I got to flip through my keychain or find the Kroger app. You get the idea. I find joy now getting rid of all these apps because if you're a company out there that doesn't have an app, don't create one. There's no point. There's too many of them as it is now. And I know there are other people that share the exact same feeling that I'm feeling now. And this really came to a head earlier this week when I logged in. I had an outstanding medical bill and I'm fine. Everybody's fine. It's for a physical. And I was trying to pay this outstanding medical bill. And I was going through all these damn portals, all these damn apps. And I had to sign up for yet another one. And then you had to go through this other one to see a chart. And then, but the chart was there, but then the financial information's not there. Ladies and gentlemen, if you are a company that wants to thrive in 2025, you need to think about the user experience. Now, my dear buddy Eric von Hessler yesterday on The Doctrine went into a whole tirade about, it's private equity and a lot of these other companies that own these companies. I'm not going to go that far. I'm just going to say that at least from a user experience, as somebody that has grown up with portals that you log into where all of your information is saved for the majority of my working career, for the majority of my college career, the majority of my life, I have had to log into portals, and now apps have been certainly a part of my world for a long time. And knowing that I have all these different apps and places, I'm getting sick of them. So if you're a company, long story short here, from your old buddy Jared Yamamoto, stop making extra apps out there. And Kevin, I appreciate what you're saying here, buddy. That's why you don't pay your bills. That is an absolute great point. So for those that are listening to this via podcast, I am live streaming this, and I do a very similar show to this every Tuesday at 2 called Solo Moto on my various social platforms out there at Jared Yamamoto. And the cool thing about doing it in this format is that I get to go straight through. There's no commercial breaks, no nothing. We get to hang out. If you want to interact with me on all my different pages, feel free to, and I will do my best to interact with you. Like I see Matt right now on my Facebook page. He says, "Sup, Yams," and I say, "Sup to you, Matt." Yeah, and I hope that I am resonating with you with my hate for downloading apps and finding the therapy in the world by finding just therapy myself by being able to delete some of these apps out there and not logging into these various portals. So Kevin, good comment there. And Matt, good to see you there, buddy. So you can interact with me live throughout the show. A couple of sports things that I wanted to bring up. So I just briefly mentioned before that I played golf earlier this morning. I don't know if I would say I played it. I tried. I tried at golf earlier with my with one of my good buddies, and we both tried together. I don't know if we played golf, but we certainly tried. And it got us talking sports. And he kind of tipped me off on the story earlier that Coach O, remember him, Coach Ogeron from LSU? Apparently, Arkansas is looking at hiring Coach Ogeron. And that guy was such a character at LSU. He kind of fit the mold of LSU head coaches better than anybody that's been there before. In case you don't know, LSU fired their coach, Brian Kelly, a couple weeks ago. And, it's a prestigious program. It's up there with the Alabamas and the Ohio States and the Michigans. It's certainly one of the top programs in all of college football. And Coach O, in my opinion, was chased out of there. He got a little fame, won a national championship, and then the Bayou Bunnies really got to him. But apparently Arkansas is interested in signing him, and I hope that happens just for college football, just as being a football fan. And since I'm getting bumped for college football tomorrow night for my nightcap, I had to bring that up. I'm rooting for Coach O. I want him to get hired by Arkansas, so that way we get a chance to hear his amazing press conferences. And a couple other things that I wanted to bring up just while looking through some of the news of the day here and going through kind of the theme that's developing this week. So I know there's been a lot of AI stories this week, and people have this fear of AI. And I understand why people are afraid because there's a lot of unknowns with it, with how powerful it could be, and this idea that it may rule us all one day. My I always push back against that. I'm like, guys, we have dealt with technological changes for our entire lives as a species, for humanity. We have made significant changes to be able to survive, and AI is just a tool for us at this point. There's no need to be afraid of it. I do think that for those, at least on the younger end of things, if you're 50 and below, yeah, I'm saying 50 and below because people are living to be 90 and 100 years old, you need to learn to embrace it because it is certainly a tool that can help you out. But when you read about stories like this that are a little bit weird here, I can understand why people have some concerns out there. This is a story from CBS News here. A study has found that people can't tell the difference between AI generated music from the real thing anymore. This is a poll out of 9,000 people. They listened to 2 clips of AI generated music, and one was human based, blah, 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 blah. And the other one was AI based. And for the longest time, I am a huge music guy, go to music festivals, go to concerts all the time in Atlanta. And I, for the longest time, did not like the idea of AI music interrupting the flow of what, normal musicians are doing out there. And because it takes a lot to be a successful artist in 2025, in my opinion. I know there are many successful artists out there, but there are a lot of artists that you don't know about that are really talented. That's just the reality of things. That's the struggle of trying to create a successful band or successful sound altogether. But I have to say, as somebody that struggles singing, I'm not a very good singer. I can sing in the low monitor like that. I can do some Johnny Cash, those very easy songs like that of Folsom County Blue. I can do like just some of the much more deeper songs or country songs. I can do those like Luke Bryan and stuff. Toby Keith, any like those kind of sounds I've been able to do. But I have a musical ear, and I've always been a good writer. And I think until AI really came on the scene, if I had wanted to go that direction with my career going into the music industry, that probably would have been, I probably would have had to be a songwriter and given my music to other artists to allow them to, and let them be successful. Let them be the ones that are successful, taking the music that I wrote. But I think with AI, where I have to push back now and really make sure that I'm clear with this here, is that I think that going forward, AI is going to allow people like me that can't play an instrument and cannot sing, but have a musical ear and love music. It gives people like me an opportunity to jump into that field. Now, should there be a label that says that it is AI generated? Absolutely. But there still has got to be somebody that puts in the prompts. There's got to be somebody that is making sure that at least what you're listening to has some kind of human connection to it, right? Some kind of human hands or behind the scenes putting it together. That's where I have to draw the line there. And I know there's a lot of musical people out there that just unfortunately can't sing and they can't play an instrument. I feel like AI could be a way for them to be able to break on the scene. I know that there's a country artist that is on top of the charts right now. I'll be able to pull him up here in a second. And there was an AI pop singer named Zanea Monet, not Janelle Monet, Zanea Monet, that came out last week that ended up signing a $3 million record deal because of the talent that the person behind the scenes, again, the person that writes the prompts, that understands the cadence of music and understands the presentation of music and is getting other people to download said music. They are the ones that are behind the scenes making all the magic happen. I actually am pushing back a little bit. At first, I was outraged by it. I was upset about it. But now, after reading more into it and understanding what goes into it, I'm actually for it. I think that it makes a lot of sense. And I think that there's going to be a lot more artists that are able to express their art that may have had that may have unfortunately not had the musical talents beforehand, but maybe they were good writers beforehand. So I am happy about that. Now, this story is concerning to me, though, kind of in the AI realm as well. Apparently, there is a new AI app that allows you to recreate your loved ones, meaning that you can start talking. Like if you lost your grandmother or your grandfather or any kind of loved one, you can upload some of their memories into this AI app and you can start actually working with it and it will like tell you bedtime stories, it'll tell you fairy tales, and that's creepy to me. I have to push back against that one. Maybe in a couple weeks I'll come around and I'll see the bright side of this, but what you have to understand is that nothing's going to bring grandma, grandpa, or whoever the loved one is that you lost back. And even if they're coming back and they're reading to you or telling you a fairy tale, I mean, what? It's a computer that's telling you that. I don't know what kind of closure you're going to get with that. If anything, it's kind of like being with an ex-girlfriend for too long, right? Like, the relationship is over, but you just can't let go. And I have to push back against that. That's very, very creepy. And I really fear for people that hold on to things for too long. There are a lot of people out there that don't know how to let go. And especially with something like death like that, that's a really tough thing to deal with. And if this AI app that they've come out with is as realistic as they're advertising here, it could certainly be a concern for those that don't know how to let go and can't process, that aren't allowed to grieve and process. So look, 2 AI stories right there. One I'm for, one I'm against there. Now this story, this one sounds awful here, and I've been wanting to get to this all week here. Samuel Adams has got a new beer, and I had the story in front of me. I actually have the package of it here. So where apparently it costs $240 to drink this one beer, but it's ridiculous how strong it is. Listen to this.
Samuel Adams is out with a new beer that's 30% ABV.
Beer.
It's called Utopia's 2025, and it's illegal to sell in 15 states. The company says it gets its high alcohol content through an extended fermentation process that includes specialized yeast strains. You're not supposed to chug a Utopia's like it's a typical pint of beer either. It's meant to be sipped like a fine spirit, not only because it'll get you drunk fast, but it's expensive too, at $240 per 24.5-ounce bottle. Stacey Lynn, CBS News.
No, thanks, Stacey Lynn. Thank you for that reporting there. Yes, I'm going to have all the details in front of me. As she was mentioning there before, $240, and I believe the ABV is the equivalent of like 20 beers or something like that. No thanks. The point of drinking beers is that they are lighter. That's the point of drinking a beer. You don't want to have a super strong beer like that knocks you out like that. I am completely out of this. I get that Sam Adams is looking for ways to market and advertise their beers, but I'm sorry. Count Jared Yamamoto out of that one. I will not be drinking this new $240 beer that has a ridiculous ABV percentage. I am out of that. All right, now let's get into the politics here, because obviously another big political week with the government shutdown ending. The Democrats have done a great job, by the way, of completely changing the script from the government shutdown to the Epstein files, which, if you're not curious about the Epstein files, I don't know what to say. I mean, for me, it's not a high priority list for me as a voter, but my curiosity is certainly high. Why are all these people going to such lengths to make sure that we don't see what's in these files? That's the part that gets me. Now, would I much rather have a tariff stimulus check or tariffs taken off the board? Absolutely, I would much rather have that. But to suggest that that we shouldn't be curious about the Epstein files is absurd at this point. And I have to give mad props to the Democrats for doing a good job of completely changing the script from government shutdown, because a lot of people were mad at the Democrats. They said that they caved on the government shutdown, and in my opinion, when you look at the mathematics of it, and I've brought this up many times on my Nightcap, and I'll bring it up again. The mathematics were never there for Democrats to get a lot out of the government shutdown. Now, perhaps having the government shut down helped them out with Mamdani winning in New York City, New Jersey and Virginia going the way they did, although it went pretty much as predicted. Here in Georgia, it was wild. Georgia, we lost 2 PSC seats on the Republican side. They went to Democrats. So I think in many ways, you could make the argument that the government shutdown did work for Democrats. But instead of people getting very, very upset about the shutdown, now we've completely shifted focus over to the Epstein files. And with these Epstein files, I just think that we have to be curious about it. We have to want to know what our government is doing, and we can't just give people a pass. And that includes everybody that's in it. I mean, it's certainly a weird story. Do I put it up high on my priority list? No. But as a curious person, I want to know what's in there. And I'm glad that the House of Representatives is stepping up and saying, we're going to get to the bottom of this now that the government is open. And again, kudos to the Democrats for turning it on them. They seem to think that there is more of a smoking gun for Trump and the Republicans in these files than for themselves, which I think there's going to be a lot of implications across the board with these files. And sticking with the House for a second, I know that there's been a lot of talk about Georgia's own Marjorie Taylor Greene. She was on The View last week, and she has been very vocal against the president over the past couple of months, but over the past couple of weeks especially. And I grabbed some audio of her. She was on Sean Spicer's show last night talking about how the Trump administration is gaslighting Americans into believing that we're actually paying for lower prices. I mean, this has been Trump's DNA from the very beginning, whether you like him or not, is he's always going to inflate information, and he's always going to tell you how great things are and how wonderful things are. And they may be better, but I don't know if they're necessarily at the wonderful stage or not. And what Marjorie Taylor Greene is doing here is very interesting because you're starting to see the beginning of something. I'll play the clip here and then I'll tell you exactly what she's trying to do.
Gaslighting the people and trying to tell them that prices have come down is not helping. It's actually infuriating people because people know what they're paying at the grocery store. They know what they're paying for their kids' clothes and school supplies. They know what they're paying for their electricity bills. And so that approach does not work. We need compassion and show that we care about the American people and show that we are in the trenches with them on what they're going through. That's first and foremost. You don't gaslight them, you don't lecture them, and you don't deny what's happening.
Yes, absolutely. Don't gaslight, don't deny. And this kind of all plays into earlier this week. There was a moment where a lot of Trump supporters were very upset with Trump when he made this comment on Laura Ingram's show. Laura Ingram, obviously on Fox News, has an evening show. Many would consider this to be a relatively safe interview for the president, but he basically said that Americans are lacking talent, and that got people really, really fired up.
If you want to raise wages for American workers, you can't flood the country with tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of foreign workers.
You also do have to bring in talent. When
we have plenty of talented people here.
No, you don't.
We don't have talented people here?
No, you don't have. You don't have certain talents, and people have to learn. You can't take people off an unemployment line and say, I'm going to put you into a factory where we're going to make missiles.
Yeah, and to an extent, Trump is right there. He actually is bringing up a good point. You can't just immediately put people into jobs that they haven't been prepared for. But to say that they lack talent is an issue with the communication stylings of Trump. I've brought this up many times here on my Nightcap, and Marjorie Taylor Greene brought up the same thing with the cut I just played before that, talking about gaslighting Americans there. I think a lot of people are starting to see through the cracks here. They're starting to see through some of the nonsense that's being put out there. Again, it doesn't mean that the next 3 years couldn't be great. They might be wonderful years for the Trump presidency. And honestly, for the sake of America, we need some good years in front of us, because right now, the fact that as I open up the Nightcap talking about a $2,000 stimulus check that we might be getting through tariffs, I think that there are all kinds of indicators that suggest that the economy is not doing well and that the Trump administration is taking a lot of the blame for the current state of America now. And what Marjorie Taylor Greene is doing, going back to her cut before, talking about how she doesn't like how Trump is gaslighting Americans here. What she is doing is she is setting herself up for a 2028 presidential run. I said it on the Von Hessler Doctrine earlier this week. She is 100% doing that. And what she is trying to do is pretty impressive. She is trying to take the former, I guess, Make America Great Again members, like the true MAGA movement, right? And she is trying to say, he is letting you down. I am going to be the person that actually puts America first. And this is why you should come over to my side. This is why you should believe in me. Now, again, I'm not saying this is an endorsement for her. I'm not saying that I agree with that message, but I understand what she is trying to do. She feels like he is failing at this point. And in order for her to keep her political career going, she has been riding in his coattails for a long time. So she has to be able to differentiate herself and make sure that she can get all of these Americans that feel like they're left behind. Again, like, I understand what the president was saying with the Laura Ingraham cut that I just played a second ago too, where he's saying that people can't go into jobs that they're not trained for right away. They can't just go into those kind of jobs immediately. But what has to be understood there is that the way that you use the language is important. Instead of saying that we are talentless, the way that you get people to actually buy into it is you say, right away, we can't get people into these jobs, but I know that through the correct schooling and I know that through the correct training, after a couple months, a couple years, depending on the job, then we can get our Americans in the right place to do those jobs. So it comes down to a communication style. And I don't know if Trump's ever going to make that change or not. But the reality is when you use hyperbolic language for everything, whether it's great, whether it's bad, people start to see through the BS that's out there. And I think that's what's happening now. I think that's what happened during the elections a couple of weeks ago. I think that's what happened with the news cycle this week. I think that's what's happening with the complete shift in focus from the government shutdown over to the Epstein files this week. I think a lot of people are starting to not take him as seriously now. And it's up to him to make sure that as president, you've got 3 more years in front of you, buddy. You got 3 more years. I know the midterms are going to be top of mind, but what you got to do is focus in on what your agenda is and how to get it done within the parameters of the law. That was a very long way of saying, I understand actually where people's anger is coming from with Donald Trump at this point. And I didn't intend for this nightcap to be super political, but hey, that's what ends up happening here. I end up going on a tangent, which, by the way, I see people chiming in on Instagram. I appreciate all of those that are watching live. I usually have my nightcap Saturdays from 11 to midnight on WSB Radio. Obviously, if you're listening back to this as a podcast, you know you're already a fan here. But make sure you follow me on my various social accounts. Everybody that's watching on my Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, and X pages right now. I appreciate all of you guys for watching live and interacting with me this Friday. Again, if you're just tuning in, for those, again, in the podcast world, you've already heard me say this before, but for those that are just tuning in live now, my show is getting bumped tomorrow because UGA is taking on Texas. Huge game, number 5 versus number 11 in Athens at 7:30 tomorrow night on my home station, WSB Radio. Horns down. Come on. We can all agree. We want Texas to lose this game. We want Matthew McConaughey to be very sad tomorrow in Athens when the Dogs take care of business. And even though you lose my show, hopefully the Dogs come home with a victory for you and me. A couple more stories I wanted to go here. And the cool thing that I love about doing the podcast format is that I just get to keep going. Like, I don't have to stop and do my breaks and stuff. I will take open mics next week, I promise, on the from the WSB Radio. You get 30 seconds over there, and I'll get a chance to play those next week when my show returns in its normal slot. But I want to get to this story here because I'm a big Atlanta guy. I know it's brought up all the time on the Von Hessler Doctrine. I was born and raised here. I've seen this city go through so many transformations, and I'm a real believer. I'm a big cheerleader. At some point, I think I want to run for public office. and start either in Atlanta or Georgia and then go beyond that. That's kind of what I've been thinking. But I want to make sure I'm well done with my radio career, make sure I'm well retired before that, because I love radio. I want to do that for until I can't do it anymore. That's how long I'd like to do radio. And then at that point, I would go into public service. But I saw an interesting story from Channel 2 Action News. They actually are the TV station directly above us here at WSB Radio. And when I say above us, yes, they're literally, they are the beautiful people in our building. We cannot make eye contact with them. We can't look them in the eyes. We are lowly radio people to the beautiful TV people up on the top floor. But regardless, I saw this story on their website. I saw that that Andre Dickens is planning to make an announcement and a pitch for MARTA to expand to Cobb and Gwinnett County here in the in his next term. He just got reelected. It was a huge margin. I think he won by like 80% or something like that. I mean, there was really no real contender going into this election, and he ran away with it. But what I love about this idea here is that as somebody that has dealt with Atlanta traffic my entire life, we have got, and I mean, we must start making changes to allow people to get around. We have got to start making these changes immediately. I mean, this is getting out of control, how bad it is now. And what I love, at least with the Beltline project, is that at least in the short term, there is going to be a light rail system that's going to be next to it, where you can ride a train that kind of looks like the streetcar in Atlanta, and that'll go next to the Beltline in the long term. That was smart. That all connects up to the MARTA system. But what really set me off a couple of years ago was when the Atlanta Braves moved from Turner Field up to Cobb County, and there's basically no public transportation up to Cobb County. Now, have I since embraced the Braves and do I enjoy their new location at the Battery, or relatively new location in the Battery? Sure, absolutely I do. I can't deny that I don't have a good time at the Battery enjoying the Braves, but it would be nice to be able to take a train from Cobb County, Truist Park, and go directly into the city and be able to go home from there. Because I'm close to a MARTA line where I live. I try to use it as much as I can, especially when I'm going to the airport here in Atlanta. And we really need to think about the future of our city. If we are going to continue being the hub of the Southeast, we must think about alternative transportation methods. And it doesn't always have to be train. I know that everybody gets, especially on the left, they get really hung up. Democrats love trains. And I'm like, guys, like, there are other ways to get around besides trains. Republicans love cars. They're like, oh, we got to do the car. I'm like, guys, there are other things that we can think of from an infrastructure standpoint to help our city succeed. And I like the idea that Mayor Dickens is bringing up by saying we need MARTA rail to go to Cobb County and Gwinnett County. Gwinnett County is obviously a huge growing county here in the metro area. And we've got to make sure that and he knows that we've got to be able to get a lot of the talent that's in that area to come work in the city with ease. So he makes a lot of sense there. But the pitch that I would say to Mayor Dickens is, remember, it doesn't always have to be rail. Rail is great, but there are other ways that we can do it. And no, I'm not talking about buses. Buses, light rail, for the most part, has been a failure for most people out there. I get it. I know that for some that do ride buses, most people that I talk to, at least, do not enjoy it. So I'm talking about gondolas. I'm talking about potentially, like, I know that Uber Copter, for example, came out in New York a couple of years ago. I'm talking about revolutionary ways for people to get around our city, because it is ridiculous that trying to get 10 miles during rush hour in our city, it can take over an hour at times, especially if you're going from one end of town to the other. So I'm glad Mayor Dickens is thinking about this. But overall, though, it doesn't always have to be trains, Mayor Dickens. And that would be my pitch to him. If you were in the room right now, we would talk about that. And I would say, I love the idea of trains, but it doesn't always have to be that. All right, I have gone the length of a normal radio show, a normal nightcap, without taking any commercial breaks. How about that? So I really appreciate everybody that's tuned in live. Alfred, I love you, buddy. I appreciate you saying that you'd vote for me. Again, I don't know if I'm going to run for office anytime soon, but certainly once the radio career runs out, I think that I have this itch for public service. I've never lost an election in my life, and I think that I would be a formidable competitor. And I love just getting a chance to talk with people and interact with people. And then there's no better feeling that when you're able to serve somebody, right? You're able to do something that just makes somebody's day. I know that my lovely wife has this amazing characteristic where she is so giving and so nurturing and so just nice to people. And I thought I was a nice person until I met her. And then I realized, I'm like, wow, okay, both of us together, we are a power couple in terms of trying to make other people feel good. And that's where I think that itch for public service is, because when you are in public service, you should be feeling that all the time for your constituents, whether you're a mayor, city council member, president of the United States, you name it. You should be trying to think about how it is that you can help the people around you. And I feel like I could do that to really, really help people in Atlanta, Georgia, and who knows, maybe beyond that. I did want to get to a couple other stories here, but I also want to make sure that I don't go too long here. So if you want another story, I'm seeing some thumbs up here. I'm seeing some thumbs up on Instagram over here and a couple on, okay, YouTube and TikTok. Okay, I'll give you one more story here. So this story has been hanging around for a couple days this week. Apparently the most popular password is 123456 or admin or password. Stop doing that. Stop making sure your passwords are that. That's going to... This is just stupid here. You're just asking for people to hack your data. Remember what I brought up earlier, how you're sick and tired of all these portals out there? Well, if you want your data to be stolen, that is a guaranteed way to make sure that your data is stolen. Don't use those kind of passwords that are out there. All right, that is our time for today. I appreciate all of y'all for listening, watching, any way that you're consuming the Nightcap this week. I appreciate y'all. And I will be back next week in my normal time slot from 11 to midnight. And, of course, on the Von Hessler Doctrine later today from 3 to 7 p.m. And, of course, Monday from 3 to 7. It doesn't matter when you listen. I'm on WSB all the time. Or, of course, doing my Nightcap, Solo Moto, all my different various projects. You can find me out there at Jared Yamamoto. I want you to do two things for me, though, this weekend. Number one, be safe out there. And number two, don't do anything I wouldn't do. And I'll see you next time.